Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm on a little bit early today. I'm actually on an hour earlier than I usually am because I've got some meetings that I've got this afternoon with some wedding clients and a few model discussions with some models. So I've had to pop on a little bit early. I'm just going to say hi to a few people that are watching. We've got Michael, we've got Mike, Keith, John Lambert's here, Michael Becker, Keith Smathers, John Lambert, Mike Theobald, Mike Becker, Van is here. Keith is here, Robert's here. Jim said, hello David, you have been extremely prolific with videos recently, which I really enjoy. And Mike is from Germany as well. So we're all around the world, which is good, and it may help some people being a bit earlier, or it may not, depending on where you are. In the UK, it's obviously pretty late, so they won't be up yet, but we sort of they can catch up, I suppose, later in the day. I may vary these a little bit over the coming weeks to sort of different times so that other people can join the discussion as well. So we've got my usual live show today. I'm going to go through some news and rumours soon as well. So we'll go through those first, and then we'll go through a live shoot. I'll take you through a shoot that I did not long ago, and I'll show you how I sort of did that. Give you some ideas about what I was after when I was doing that shoot. And then we'll have questions at the end too. And I will stop for some questions as well, guys, as we go along. So we can stop and I will answer any questions that you guys have too, which I like. But I will leave a period at the end where we can just have questions too. So let's get started. Let's look at some news, because there's not heaps of news this week, but there is some news which will be interesting to some people. So we'll go through that now, and you can chime in with anything that you want to, and obviously have a chat amongst yourselves too in the chat as well, guys. So let's get started. So the first one I wanted to mention was Commlite have released a new Nikon adapter for the Sony E-mount autofocus lenses. I just need to switch this other camera because it's not right. You're looking at a different camera. Let me just fix that. I think it's that one. Yep, there I am. It looks much better than looking at my hand. So Commlite have released a new Nikon adapter for auto, and they're saying that it's the autofocus adapter. This is the one that a few people have had issues with it basically wrecking their camera. I think Jason Lanier had an issue with one of these, and someone else did. I can't remember who that was. But apparently this is a new version that's come out. Now, like I said, you may all know that I did come from Nikon before, but I didn't keep any of my Nikon gear. Apart from a 105 macro, that's the only lens that I've kept, and I've got just a manual adapter with that. But this new adapter has been out, but I'm not sure how well it works. The problem with the Nikon converting into the Sony is the actual way that the lenses actually work, and that's why Canon has had much more success, and so has Sigma had much more success with their adapters than what they've had basically trying to adapt the Nikon lenses. But I just wanted to let you know that there is a new adapter announced, so it's going to be interesting to see how that is. So if anyone does get their hands on that when it's actually released, just let me know. So that's the first one. Also, there's a new MC11 adapter. Well, it's not a new adapter, but the firmware has been updated for this again. And they're saying, if you look at this, that it's giving better autofocus, and they've also added more compatibility with lenses. So they're saying the Sigma 14mm, the Art and Sigma 24-70, as well, has now been adapted so that it can work with this adapter. I did used to have a Sigma lens. When I was shooting Nikon, I used to have the 1.4 35, and I love that lens. That was amazing. So one day I may get some Sigma lenses as well. I'm just hoping they eventually release some that are just native mount into the Sony, so that you don't have to use this adapter. But let me know, guys, if you're using any of these adapters. So let me know how you're finding that they work. And if you've updated to this latest firmware, let me know if you think it has actually improved the way that these lenses work. Definitely let me know too if you are using adapted lenses, because I'm always curious to know how you find them focusing and things like that. And if you are actually coming in late, let me know down below so that you can, in the comment box, so you can sort of discuss it in there as well, because I'd love to know what your feelings are on adapted lenses versus native. When I left Nikon, I deliberately decided that I was going to go completely native in their lenses. And I haven't gone completely, but I nearly have. Like I said, I've still kept the 105 macro, and that's just with the manual adapter. and it's manual focus, obviously, because of that. But being macro, it doesn't really matter. But to be honest, I haven't used it. I use the 35 or the 30 mil Sony lens. The reason why I decided to switch totally because when I moved over nearly 2 years ago, it was an issue with things like eye autofocus and continuous focus and things like that. And because I'm a wedding photographer and model photographer, I need quick focus. So I never went down the adapted line. I sold all my Nikon lenses off and bought the Sony gear. So it may be a lot better now than what it was. I know if you're still talking about long focal lengths, like 300 mil, 400 mil, there was an article which I showed the other day where that was on the One Camera Guys thing where the focusing wasn't very good. So let me know if you're sort of seeing that. Mike has said, I have a whole thread in my Flickr group about the adapter. So there is some people. So Mike, if you want to put that into the comment box later on, once this is up, I'll allow that, because if you put links into external videos, it blocks it. But I'll allow that through if you want to put that in, Mike. And I'll let people look at that too so they can sort of see it as well. Keith said, good thing the Sigma update the firmware. Kieran said there's a big difference from the 70-200 f4 to the 70-200 2.8. Well, Kieran, I'm using the f4 version, and I'm very, very happy with that. Very, very happy with that. I did rent the 70-200 2.8, and to be honest, I didn't find it that different. I mean, look, it is nicer in the bokeh if you're going down to 2.8, but for me particularly, I like the light aspect of that lens, the f4 lens, and I don't want to be lugging around that heavy gear anymore. Clearly, if you want to get the Gold Master version, it is a better lens. But I'm quite comfortable using the f4 version, and I want to sort of put that out to people that you don't have to get the GM lenses to get amazing results. There's nothing wrong with that f4 lens. In fact, it's incredibly sharp. If you look at the reviews of that lens, it actually is incredibly sharp. And if you're dealing at 200mm focal length, because to be honest, if I'm using the 70-200, I like to be shooting at the 200mm focal length because I want that compression. That's the only reason why I'll be using that lens. I want that compression it brings. And the outer background, outer focus points at that point, it's blown anyway. It's totally gone. So, but that's just my opinion. Kieran said also, have you ever used the 400 2.8? No, I haven't. I'd love to try one. I'd love to try some birding with it. I've said in the One Camera Guys video the other day that I wouldn't mind to have a go at the 100 to 400 lens and try some birding. Now that I've got the A9, I wouldn't mind to give that a go because I think it'd be a real fun thing to try, those longer lengths. So let's go back to the news again and we'll continue on with this. I just want to let people know too that the 12 to 24 is now in stock at B&H, Adamorama and Amazon. So it's now in stock if you did want to buy that lens. I do like the wide lens. I'm only using the 16 to 35 at the moment, and I'm using the f4 version. But I wouldn't mind to see what this camera is like. To be honest, if I'm using, if I need to shoot really wide, like for instance after the wedding ceremony, I'll have a shot of the whole bridal party, and that's including all the guests. I will then use a really wide lens, and the 16 to 35 is usually wide enough, but if it's not, I'll use the 10 to 18. So I'll put that lens on. I'm just going to try and turn this volume down just a touch because I think it's a bit hot. Yeah, so I'm tending to use the 10 to 18, and you can use that from 12mm without it vignetting, and it's actually quite good. So I am using the APS-C 11, the 10 to 18, quite often on my full frame camera, so I'm not sure if anyone else has ever used that. Clearly it's not going to be as good as using this 12 to 24, which I believe is really, really sharp. It was just reviewed the other day by Kai, I think, and he really liked it. He said it was an amazing lens. So anyway, that's available now if you did want to go and buy it. It's in stock at all those locations for, $16.98 if you want to buy that. So it's not too bad, actually. And also the thing that, from what I've seen about that lens, it's really quite light, which is another great feature of such a wide angle lens. But I'll skip here because I'm also thinking about this lens, and I wanted to know if any of you have ever used this because, as you know, I like to use primes all the time. I mean, I do like to tend to use primes now more than zooms. And I wanted to know if anyone in the chat particularly has ever used this lens, or let me know in the comments down below how you've found this. I'm not too worried about it being soft too much on the edges. It's more that if it's fairly sharp in the middle, and is there bucket load of barrel distortion on this lens. So let me know if you are thinking about this lens, or if you've actually used it or got it, or you've borrowed one from somewhere else. Can you let me know in the comments now, or even down below in the comments box later on? Because, like I said, I'm trying to move nearly all to primes, and I'd love to see how this one actually goes. I think it's probably manual focus, I'd say, though, which doesn't matter as a wide angle anyway. If you're using a wide angle, basically everything's going to be in focus anyway. That's what I've found with the 10 to 18. It's great for gimbals because nearly everything will be in focus. Let me just see if anyone's chiming in. Keith said I have used the 12mm. So you've used this, Keith. How did you find it, Keith? It'd be interesting to see how you go. John said, where do you recommend buying your Sony lenses from, David? Well, it depends where you're from, John. If you're from here, I always buy them from camera stores. I very rarely buy online. I'll tend to go into camera stores themselves, and I use Michaels and DigiDirect, companies like that down here. If you're in the States, it's a lot easier for you guys to shoot, to buy locally on things like B&H or Adorama, Amazon, places like that. So you've got much more areas, that you can buy over the States. I tend to just buy through the stores here, so if there's any problems, I can just take them back in. And I live close to Melbourne anyway, so it's not an issue for me. I did used to buy online a lot in B&H and Amazon and Adorama from the States, but by the time you get the difference in the money, the exchange rate, and then the shipping, it ended up being the same price I could get them here, so I just tend to buy them here now. Studio 69 said, I have the 14 2.8 Samyang and it's amazingly sharp. Well, there you go. See, the Samyang is the same as the Rokinon. Well, that's really interesting. Thanks for that. I missed out because I noticed yesterday B&H had this for $2.99. I should have probably bought it. John's here in Brisbane. So, yeah, John, I'd be just using your camera shops that you got there too, like Michaels and DigiDirect too. Mike has said the 2.8 114 is sharp in the centre, soft in the corners. Yeah, no, I thought that probably would be the case. I mean, look, you get what you pay for. You're only dealing with $399 here, as against a lens that's, $1,000. So, but it may be good enough for what I want to use it for, and that's why I'm saying I really only use that really, really wide look for things like if I had to get this group shot after the ceremony, because sometimes you just can't get wide enough, and that could be an area where that lens may help me. But like I said, I've already got the 10 to 18, but it's an f4 lens, whereas this is an f2. So it would let a lot more light in if I did need that as well. So let's look at the next thing. This is an interesting lens that I saw the other day released. Oh, it's not released yet. I think it's just going to be on Kickstarter or something. But it's a tiny pancake lens, a 35mm manual focusing lens. And boy, if you did want to go minimalistic, this could be an interesting lens. Now, I don't know how well it works, or how sharp it is, or whatever. It's probably sharp in the middle again, and it won't be on the corners. But that's another interesting lens that I found for Sony Rumours. It's by a German brand called Goerz, I think. And they usually made large format lenses. You can buy them on eBay and stuff. So you can have a look at that, and I'll put these links in the comment box so you can have a look as well later on. The last thing too I wanted to talk about with rumours and stuff and news is that Fujifilm, this is really interesting, are thinking about bringing out in-body stabilization to the X series cameras. This is interesting because initially they said it wasn't possible, so now they're talking about having this as well. One of the main things that sort of put me off the Fuji, really, to be honest, is that it doesn't have any stabilization, which now, if they can get this going, well, it does make it a lot more of an interesting camera. I'm not sure how it's going to work or how they're going to do it, but it's clearly now on the cards. And like I said, I'm not going to read through this whole thing, but I'll put the description down below for this, and I'll put the link there, and you can have a look at this yourselves. But that's the one competing thing what, say, the Panasonic has, and also the Olympus has, is that in-body stabilization. And even the A6500 for video particularly, that's where I love that in-body stabilization. It means, you don't have to rely on it being on the lenses, and you can use sort of third-party lenses or vintage lenses, whatever you want, and still have stabilization. So that's coming as well. So, excuse me. Let's skip to the questions, and we'll have a look at what some people are saying. John is saying for local, Camera Warehouse seems to be the best prices in Brisbane. So that's if you're a local person. Like I said, if you're from the States or England, you've got much more, or Europe, you've got much more choice than what we have out here. We can always get something, but it's harder. Most people are saying that the 14mm is sharp in the centre. How do you find out all these rumours? Kieran's saying, I just Google basically here. And I have a time when I go and have my coffee and then I'm just starting to search and Google and things like that. Keith has said Fuji's making moves and I'm very happy for them. And you know what, Keith? So am I, because it's like I said the other day, I want competition in this marketplace. I want Fuji to do well. I want Canon to do well. And I want Nikon to do well. And the reason why I want that to happen is totally selfish, because I want Sony to innovate. If they haven't got competition, they won't innovate. There'd be no need to. So I want good competition. It's only going to make things better. Just to let you know some other news, I sold my two A7 IIs. So I did sell them to two really lovely young guys who are going to use them for different things. I think it was travel and blogging and stuff like that. So I've sold them and I'm saving the money. Basically, I've just put that aside and I'm going to wait probably for the A7 III to see what that's like when it's released. So I have already got rid of those in anticipation of what's going to be coming. I'm just hoping that they don't let me down. But at the moment, I've got ample cameras that I can get on with. I've got the A9, I've got the Sony A7R II, I've got the A6 500, and I've got the A6 300. So I've got plenty of cameras at this stage to tide me over to see what the A7 III has. If that lets me down, then I may have to think about another move for something, and I'm not sure. It might be a Panasonic GH5 or something like that. So I'm waiting to see what the Sony has, the A7 III. So hopefully it won't be too long. But I just thought I'd let you guys know that I did sell my A7 IIs. Mike said, so you guys seem to have better copies of the 2.8 14. Mine isn't great. Yeah, and that could be the problem too. Because it's a cheaper lens, it might have variations in build quality. Kieran said, favourite place you've ever been to? Oh, probably New Zealand, Kieran. I love New Zealand. It's stunning. I've travelled extensively, and I probably would say that New Zealand is the prettiest place that I've ever been to, in the fact that there's so few people there. It's sort of like what you'd expect Switzerland to have been 50 years ago. It's got the beautiful Alps. There's not many people there. The roads are really easy to drive because there's no traffic, and the scenery is just spectacular. So probably... New Zealand, South Island would be my favourite place I've ever been to. Keith said it's going to be Fuji and Sony that will be making changes to the photography industry, and you're probably right, Keith. I mean, like I said, I'm hoping Nikon and Canon do wake up to themselves. The 6D Mark II is a joke. I really think that was just a crazy release by Canon. I don't understand what they were thinking about with that camera. Having waited so long for that camera to come out and then have the features that it actually had... was crazy. And if you want to see what I think about that, look at that one camera guy's video we just did the other day, because I talk about that extensively, so you can have a look at that to see what I think about that. Keith is saying South Korea, Seoul have been, but I have friends there, so he loves that obviously. David, just for the record, the 12mm Sammy is an APS-C lens. Oh, so that's an APS-C lens. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, there you go. So I'd have to use that on my... Well, that wouldn't be any good for me then. Thanks, Mike. That's thanks for saying that. I thought it was full frame. So let's move on to a shoot that I've done. Because I want to sort of discuss this shoot with you, because it's interesting some of the comments that people have made when they... actually, before we do that, I'll talk to you about what's in my gear bag. So let's have a look. Now, two things I want to show you about today, because there's one thing that I always take with me in my camera bag, and that's the lens filter pen. It has the little graphite, I think, in the back there, and then obviously you can clean the front of your lenses. These are things that I take with me for every shoot that I do, so that I can give it a quick dust, and then clean the actual lens. So that's a really important thing that I'm always taking in my bag. But one thing particularly is really important for Sony cameras, particularly, any mirrorless really, is the rocket blower. I never really have dust or that much dust on my lenses, because I carry this and I will basically give the lens a blast, or the sensor a blast, always before I do a shoot. and it tends to keep the sensors clean enough. If you don't do this all the time, you will get sensor dust. So these are two things in particular that you should always carry in your camera bag, no matter what camera bag you're actually having. Always take these two, and if, like I said, sometimes I've even been on the beach and I've then used this to try and blow a little bit of the sand away that can get onto it as well. So there are a couple of really, really important things that I carry with me all the time. And I've got different size ones of these because there's some for smaller lenses and some for larger lenses. So it just depends. But I always carry multiple ones. So even though I've got multiple bags, I'm always carrying multiple lens cleaners. Otherwise I'll forget them. So I'm always carrying these. So they're the only two things that I sort of wanted to show you today about what's in your bag. Like I said, let me know too what you guys think that, what's important for you guys for your bag that you would never leave out. So let me know too, because it might give me a jog for what I can show you guys too, because it may be that I've actually got it. So what we're going to look at now, we're going to go through a shoot, and I want to take you through this shoot that I did in Melbourne a little while ago, because it's an interesting shoot, and I'll tell you why. Was let me just make this a little bit smaller, just so it's not so big. This shoot which I did in Melbourne, and this is where too that your artistic interpretation comes into play here in what that you actually want to do with the shot. Because some people have said to me I should have shot this with a more shallow depth of field. But remember that this is an art. Photography is an art. And I deliberately wanted to shoot this so I showed Melbourne in the background, this sort of stadium that's in the background. Let me just open up this thing here. This stadium that's in the background here, behind Grace, it's sort of an iconic football stadium here that concerts are held at and everything else. But I wanted to actually show the environment in this. So I've used a wide lens deliberately, so it's a 16-35. So you're not going to get much out of focus look anyway because it's such a wide angle lens. But I didn't want to do that. If I wanted to do that, I clearly could have done it. And this is the interesting thing by what some people are saying about why didn't you blow the background out? But I didn't want to on this image, and that's the thing. For me personally, I like the way that looks, and this is where I was saying everyone sees different things, and that's what I said to some of the comments that kept going on about this in the area where I posted this, because you can go back and you'll see this as a video being shot. I'll see if I can put the links in, and then you can actually see the video being done of this. I'll stick it on the thing sort of up here at the end of the video. So that's the reason why I wanted to shoot this, so that the whole background, basically everything was in focus. I shot it at 7.1. And that's the reason why. So I didn't mind all these buildings being shown up, because I wanted this image to sort of have that fashiony look about it, to have that high-end look about it. And I wanted to show Melbourne really sort of in all its beauty in this background. And that's the reason why I kept it as it is. Now, even though this was sort of shot late in the day, there was an off-camera flash used that was sort of outside the area, which was sort of out here beaming in, which has just given her a little bit more fill that was on that side through there. So you can see that I've used 1/6400th of a second, f7.1 ISO 100, and it's the 26mm, and it's the 16-35. Like I said, I did want to shoot this nice and wide, so I showed the environment that was actually behind her. I'm just looking up from here. Someone has said, Kieran said, have you heard of David Yarrow? No, I haven't, Kieran. Is he a photographer? Keith said it's a personal taste, everyone. And that's exactly right, Keith. It is all personal taste. And that's the thing with photography. That's the beauty of it. And clearly the model loved these. So that's really all I care about, is if I love it and they loved it. John said, I may have taken the shot at a lower level so the building behind her isn't too distracting. Otherwise, nice shot. And the thing was too, she was walking quite fast, so this is just one of the shots where she moved, John, so she was actually moving and walking and things. So let's go to the next one. This is another one where, again, it's like an environmental shot where she's just walking across, and like I said, you can see this shoot if you actually want to go and have a look at it. Again, I didn't mind the buildings being shown in the background. Like I said, I could easily have taken them out if I wanted to, but I didn't want to in this case. So yeah, that's the same, and I love the processing on this. I like that cold sort of black and white look. It looks quite edgy and sharp. And again, I think I love the walk that she's just actually doing. I had the focus on continuous focus here, and I just moved away with her when she was walking, and nail the focus as well. This was all done with the A7R II. This next one's an interesting shot, because this one was shot with this is where I was saying the other day about balancing. If you go back to my videos for business, which I'll be getting back to probably next week, I'll start doing that again. But if you go looking at that, you can see how I've balanced the foreground and background together. So this was done with flash that had a yellow foil on the front of the actual Profoto unit. Oh no, actually I think I used the handheld flashes here through an umbrella. But what it actually is if you look at the shot, obviously the light clearly is coming from behind, so that the light is backlighting her from here, which is sort of giving that separation through this area here. But I've got a flash that was to the left of camera over here through an umbrella that is just lighting up that side to give her that fill. But I had to use a yellow foil. If I didn't do that, and this is one critical thing about when you're learning flash, guys, if I used bare flash here, she would have been blue. She would have looked blue. Because I had to balance the ambient for this lovely warm colour that is coming from this sunset, I had to make sure that I filled her with that same colour, and that's why I used the yellow flash to fill her in as well. What's John saying? David said, David's live stream quality is better than my actual videos. Thanks, David. What else have we said? Keith said, sharp. Love the grey. Yeah, I like the grey too. It did look quite cold, Keith. Yeah, that's what I loved about that image. John Lambert said he liked that one. So yeah, this is Bianca, and I really do like that little bit of fill. You can sort of see in her eyes she's got a little bit of a catch light. So that gives you the hint that she's been lit up there by flash. If we look at the next one here, we've got Maddie, which is very, very similar. Again, she's sort of lit up with that same type of yellow foil that's coming into the camera to give that same colour feel. That if you didn't do that, she'd tend to, like I say, look completely blue. So it's important to match that colour. And again, this was just through that off-camera flash that's filled her in and given her a bit of fill. Because I had to expose for the ambient through here, I actually had to. She would have been black if I didn't fill her in with flash, so she would have been completely dark. Remember, I'm always shooting for this ambient exposure first. So I exposed for that, and then I'll add the fill in to fill in Maddie here. So that's how I exposed for it, because I wanted to get that beautiful sort of colour that was in the background down here, which sort of is important to me. So again, I'm just exposing for the ambient first and then using fill to actually fill her in. If we look at the next one, this is a lovely location. This is Balti Bridge. I'll just take this down so you don't see those highlights. This is another one that I wanted to have a real fashion type look about it. This is lovely. It's got these sweeping sort of lines that come around that draw your eye right the way, sort of around this sort of area to where Grace actually is standing. Again, I had to balance for the background light all through here, so it was very, very quite challenging to actually get this. So I am using the wide angle. I'm using the 16 to 35 here, so I'm shooting this wide, but I needed to do that to get this lovely sweeping look that was coming around this image. So I wanted to get that, and that to me, it's a lovely looking image because of that. And I just had her stand on this area here. Now she's lit with a Profoto unit that's sort of up here just out of the camera frame. So she's lit with a Profoto unit through here with that 2-foot octobox with a grid on it. And again, I wanted the grid because I didn't want any of this to be lit up down here, which it would have happened if I used normal flash. So you can see that she's being lit just along this side, and it's controlled because it's through that grid. And I've controlled that flash lighting that's actually coming in to the side of her there, and that's the main thing here. And again, I've put a yellow grid on this because she had to match that environmental look of that background. I didn't want her to be too cold, even though this looks a little bit cold. That's my processing that I've done here. I wanted her to have that sort of look. So we'll go on to the next one. I did a similar one with Maddie. Again, you can see here that she has a similar type look that's going on. And again, it's just beautiful. It's had similar processing done to what the other one had, and it's been lit up exactly the same as what the other one had. The only thing that I always make sure with these girls when they're doing this is that, you know, she's faced towards the light, and you've got to try and make sure that they are turned a little bit towards that light because they're being lit up off camera this side here. You sort of want them to face that way, and that way you'll get that lovely fall off against the background. And it's just beautiful, and I just love this location. It's so stunning, and again, having that, you know, draws your eyes sort of in with that look. It just draws you right into the center of this, and these lovely arches that, you know, sort of come around. These change color too. They go from sort of whites to blues and other colors as well. It's just stunning. Melbourne is just such a gorgeous city. It's been voted the most livable city for the last, I think, 5 years or something. It's stunning. Melbourne's a stunning city. I'm lucky to live near there. This is another one as well. So this has been shot in the same area. It's just that I wanted to throw the background a little bit out of focus this time, so I've shot this one at f2.2. And again, she's just walking. My assistant is standing off the side, obviously through here, with the Profoto with the grid on it again, because I didn't want this to light up. This where you're seeing here is actually lit from these little lights that are on the side of the actual walkway here. And again, because this has grid on it, this light, it's lit her up and it's controlled that light that's come through. You know, and again, I think it's really beautiful. She's given a great pose. I just said to make it, you know, look sort of a bit sassy, and she really made the result look nice. Because it's lit up from the back here, it's got natural backlighting that sort of separated her from the background, which is really, really good as well. You know, and they're just beautiful shots. Another cropping of that too was this one, which has been cropped a little bit differently. So I moved around, and because I'm shooting manual, nothing changes for me. Like the flash will be on manual, I'll be on manual. I can move quickly and nothing's going to change. So I just walk more in front in this situation and shot it more from that way. And again, you can see that lovely fall off because the flash is on this side. Well, it's up here. Because the flash is on that side and lighting her up through here, you know, you can see that lovely fall off that you're getting from the edge, which gives her that shape. Even though she's lovely and slim and a beautiful girl, she still needs to have shape that's given to her. You can sort of see there's a little shadow on the nose there. You can sort of see it's just coming through here, but that doesn't bother me at all. I could retouch that out if it did, but it doesn't bother me at all. But, you know, again, it's sort of got that high fashion look, you know, and it's the type of shooting that I love to do. This is another one where another different girl is just walking straight down the walkway coming towards me. The light was just off camera over this side over here, beaming in just to give her a bit of fill on this side through here. And again, you know, I just love that environment. Yeah, and so they're just things that I wanted to sort of show you as a different type of shoot that I've shot at night time. And again, in each one of these instances, if you're looking at each one of these instances, I'm shooting, like I said, I'm shooting for the environment first and then adding the fill to fill in. So your ambient exposure is the most critical thing here to set first. And these were quite high. These are ISO 2500 on a 4 and 1/60th of a second. You know, so it was very, very challenging and really quite dark. And I love the way that these have come out considering how challenging the environment actually was in that case. So let's finish that and let's open up to questions. So let's see what you guys have got up there for some questions. Do you think you'll ever do a setup tour video? Desk setup. I have showed my desk setup before, Kieran. If you go back to one of my really old videos, if you scroll down, you'll see how my desktop's set up. But I'll show you now. What I might do eventually is show you how this vlogging setup is set up because it's pretty extensive now. So I might show you that in a coming thing when we go through the business. We got Nara, hello from Korea. Hi Nara, how are you? So we've got a few saying hello. So let's open up the questions, guys. So if you've got any questions that you want to bring up or want me to answer or give opinions, don't forget, next week I'll probably go back onto some of the setting up your business for wedding and portrait photographers. So I'm going to go back to that. I've still got to show the bags that I use yet to lug everything around that I've been showing in those videos. And then we're going to get into more about how you go through marketing and setting up your website and things like that. So we'll be doing that next week. So let me know if you've got any other questions. David said, I'm a beginner in photography world. I bought Sony A6500 a month ago with the kit lens 16 to 50, 35 1.8, 50 1.8, and the 18 to 105. That's a great kit, Van. And the 55 to 210 and the 50 FE. However, I want to be like you, wedding. Well, you could easily shoot a wedding with that camera, Van, but you'd need another camera for sure. You've got to have a backup. Just in case if something goes wrong, and you're also going to have to get a flash as well. So I use my A6500 in weddings all the time, and if I didn't have the A9, honestly, even though that might shock some people because they'll go, it's not professional, I could easily shoot a wedding with the A6500 if that's all I had, and the images will be stunning. There's nothing wrong with that camera at all, but you do need a backup, and you're going to have to work out some lighting, Van, and you'll also have to work out some continuous lighting as well. So if you do want to get into weddings, you're going to have to work on that side of it. I suppose the unfortunate side of the A6500 is you can't do high-speed sync with that camera. You probably can if it's on camera, the Sony flash, but you can't do it off camera. So that's an issue with that. And the shutter, the flash sync speed is only 1/80th, I think, or 1/60th. Whereas on the other cameras, it's 2/50th. But I've used the Profoto on the A6500, and I've been able to shoot with 2/50th of a second easily, and there's no banding, so it's been great. But yeah, there's no reason why you can't do it. Keith said, get some Goerz speed lights. Are you talking to me, Keith? Or yeah, see, for me at the moment, I just don't need anything other than what I've got. I've got 3 Profoto lights, which are more than I'll ever probably need. And I've got the Sony HVL60s as well. So I don't think I need anything more in lighting for flash-wise. You may be talking to Van, though, I'm not sure. Even though I've heard Goerz are very, very good, like I said, I'm already that well endowed, I suppose, with great gear for flash already. Photo Mike said, I just got done renting the A9 for a wedding. It's a great camera, just a bit small. Yeah, it can take a bit getting used to if you're not used to the A9. When I went for my D4S and I went to the A7 IIs and the A7R, it felt really weird for a while. But now I'm really used to it. But what you can do is just put the battery grip on, and as soon as you put the battery grip on, it's basically the same size as an A9 anyway. So if size is really important to you, the feel, just put the battery grip on and you won't have that issue anymore. I did buy the battery grip, but I'm not 100% certain I'll use it yet because I do like that minimalistic feel, and I love to be able to run and gun and have it small. But we'll see. The A9's a game changer. Okay, Keith said not to you. Yeah, he was talking to Van. Yeah, good point, Keith. That's a good idea. My Sony A9 wedding video is coming soon. So when you get that, Keith, just share it in my comments. Photo Mike said Profoto is ballistic. Yeah, and it is. Profoto is the ultimate gear, and that's why I've said to people, when I'm showing people for my gear, you don't have to have that gear. Clearly, don't go out and go in debt and buy something like Profoto. Start out with something smaller first, and then if you find eventually you need to upgrade, do that. The thing for me is I'm lucky that I've got these lights. My studio has 3 of them, and I also carry 3 with me as well when I'm doing studio, the B1s. I won't be upgrading to the B1Xs because the only difference is a bit brighter light from the front. It's the modelling light, and the battery is bigger, but you can buy that battery for the B1, so it's basically the same. So I'll be keeping my B1s, and it's the attachments. If you're interested in the Profoto stuff, watch the video I just put up recently that shows flash gear that I use, and you'll sort of see all the Profoto stuff that I've got. It's just an amazing system. It's expensive, but you get what you pay for. And often people will say it's overpriced, but it's not, because the amount of times I've dropped that gear, I've treated it that rough, and it's never ever missed. It never misfires. I can shoot 11 frames per second if I want to, so it'll keep up at 11 frames per second. It's just incredible. It resyncs, reflashes instantly. There's no waiting, but you get what you pay for. Keith said, ever used a 24-70 2.8? No, Kieran, I haven't ever tried that lens. I've got the f4 version. That's what I'm actually shooting myself with now here. It's on the A6300. So I'm using the f4 version. Again, I don't take that lens. I don't even take the f4 version with me anymore when I do weddings. It's just in my studio, kept there. I do use it sometimes for studio shots. If I want to have a quick zoom in and out, I'll use it for there. But like I said, I cover myself with the Batis 85 and the 35 1.4. They're the two lenses that I always use. And I have two cameras on me on a strap. And look at my previous videos and you'll see that if you go through the gear that I use. I carry them on a spider holster, and that covers me for basically everything that I do. I also carry usually on a strap up the top here, the A6500 with the 24 1.8 on it as well. But they're the two lenses that I tend to use, so I have no need for the 24-70 zoom. Even though I believe it's very, very good, I've just got no reason to use it because I can cover everything with those two lenses. The 35 is my favourite focal length. I adore that lens for 90% of the shoots that I do. And then the 85 Batis, obviously, for the look of getting closer into the bride's face and or the model's face, or if I want to throw things out of focus in the background. All of my detail shots are shot with the 35 1.4. And also the 6500, the A6500 with the 24 1.8. But when I start going through my business stuff, I'll take you through a wedding shoot and stuff, and I'll show you where I use lenses under different situations. So I'll show you all of that, and then it might make sense. But I don't want to carry around big zooms. I take my 70-200 with me, the f4 version, but I only bring that if I want to have that compression, shoot at 200 millimeter for some reason. 90% of the time, if I'm shooting the other stuff, I'm using the Batis, the 85. Mel said, David, I read somewhere, forgot where, that GM had and some Sony lenses were designed and created to resolve 100 megapixel. And that's the truth. Look, that is one of the big issues that I may find eventually with the lenses that I'm using. And that's probably why sometimes it's good to go with your primes, because they will resolve more than what your zooms usually will. But the GM lenses are actually built to apparently resolve 100 megapixel sensors. So you're actually covering yourself for future camera bodies that actually come out if you're getting those lenses. So that is another big thing as well, that if you're starting to get into these huge megapixel cameras, the lenses will be out-resolved by the sensor. So you've got to be careful in what you're buying to make sure that it can be, it can resolve everything that you're using. I'm quite comfortable at this stage with the A7R2, and I to be honest, even if an A9R came out with high megapixels, it may be a while before I upgrade, because I'm quite comfortable and happy with the size of that. To be honest, if I'm doing a wedding or things like that with it, the file size starts to get quite big. And I've found that the 20 megapixel size is that sweet spot. That's why I'll use the A9 so extensively in weddings. But yes, those GM lenses are future-proofed. That's why you're paying for that. Now, Hi-Fi Energy Research said, I believe my A6300 can do HSS with my Goerz flash trigger. Okay, well, and is that off camera? See, I have never done it, so I don't know whether it's possible. Well, that's great if it can actually do that. So you can chime in, Hi-Fi Energy Research. Yeah, comment if you can do off-camera flash with that. I definitely can if I put my HVL60 on top of the A6300 and A6500, but I don't know about using it off camera. Kieran said, how old are you, David? 35, 30, 35, I feel not to answer. I don't mind at all, Kieran. I'm actually a lot older than that. I'm actually, 58. So I'm old. I'm an old bugger. I've been around for a long, long, long time. Yeah, I'm really old. You must be joking when you think I'm only 30 to 35. That's funny. High Energy Research said, David, do you think the A6300 compares with the A6500 quality-wise? Yeah, I don't think there's any difference. I think there may be a slight difference in ISO performance for the A6500. But the reason why I got the A6500 is for the image stabilization, which is really important. And I love, and a lot of people may not use that, but I love that touch focus on the back of the screen. I use that all the time, and I think that's an amazing feature to have. Plus the buffer is so much better. You just don't have to wait like you do with the A6300. So they're three things that I think are worth the upgrade if you want to go for that. Image quality wise, no difference. And I'm comfortable in using both. There's no difference in image quality at all. I'm laughing because Kieran said, "What's the mannequin in the background?" Kieran, this is Susie. Please, respect Susie. She's checking everything I do. She's my model. She's used in the workshops that I did last weekend, and she'll be used in the workshops this weekend coming up. Susie is amazing. Susie never complains. She does whatever I ask. If I ask her to turn this way, turn that way, she won't whinge. So that's Susie in the background, and most people who've been watching my things know Susie very, very well. I've also got a Ken. But Ken's not in this studio at the moment. Ken's in the other, my storage area. But Susie, she's amazing. Say hi to Susie. What else have we got? So how do you think the A7 II, I better scroll back because it's gone. I'll just go back to this other camera because I wanted to read that comment. Van said, how do you think A7 II, or what camera do you recommend for under 2,000 in the US? Well, I wouldn't be buying the A7 II now, not new, definitely. I'd only be getting that second hand. I'd be waiting for the A7 III to come out, but it's going to be over that money. I still don't think you can beat the A6500 for the price that it is. It's a fantastic all-around camera. 4K footage is amazing. You put the time limit crack on it, and then you don't have to worry about it shutting down, which is what I'm running on that now. It's just a fantastic all-around camera. For the price that camera is, it's just amazing, as long as you put good lenses on it, and that's why I love the 24 1.8. Just check the last video I put on, that's using that lens, and it's fantastic. It's of some girls walking on a bridge. Check that out. It's just in my previous video. Chad said, Photomeek said, yeah, 100 megapixel, that's a bit excessive. Yeah, no, look, we'll have to wait until we get bigger hard drives and bigger computers before we can start mucking around with those sort of things, that's for sure. Chad said, what is the projected release date for the A7 III? Anyone know? And no one knows. I mean, I'm hoping it's going to be this year sometime. I've got the money sitting there for it, Chad. Or I'm going to be like a kid on candy when it's out, just because I'll be looking forward to getting it. Like I said, though, if it lets me down, I'll be getting something else. What else have we got? Mike said, I read October, so people are saying October in here. And Nara said, I'm thinking of bringing the 85 only with my A7R2 to my New York trip, maybe with the GR2. Any thoughts? I wouldn't just take an 85. You need a wide lens, especially for New York. Nara, you need something that's wide. 35mm would do me. I'd be happy with the 35mm and the 85. But I think, to be honest, if I was going to a place, well, I have been there. I went there a couple of years ago. It's nice to have something like the 16, like a 16 to 35, a nice wide lens as well. But you could get by with a good street lens like the 35, but I wouldn't just take the 85. It's not wide enough, and you won't get any of that landscape in. So they're saying that it can work with the Goerz X1 TS. Well, thanks for that, guys. So you can use it, obviously, with that. Mike said, cool, David, you're 1 year older than me. I'm 1 year older than everyone. I don't feel old, though. That's the funny thing about it. I feel like I did when I was 21. Mel said, thanks, David, and that is future-proofing your future camera purchase. Yeah, and that's true. I mean, the thing is to remember, your bodies are disposable, and that's what people have to understand with cameras, that the bodies are disposable, your lenses aren't. People will keep lenses for years and years and years. That's why it's better to save and get a better version quality of the lens, because lenses never really go out of date. Whereas your bodies definitely will. Like Sony, they're upgrading it every 1 to 2 years, and they are throwaway items almost, but your lenses aren't. Kieran said, best product you've purchased that's been great value for money. Probably the A6 300, probably, I reckon. It'd be... I mean, that's been an amazing camera for me for the price that it is and the videos that I've been able to shoot. So probably that. And also, even though it seems expensive, Kieran, I love the ice light. And that lighting I use extensively in weddings and portraits, and that is so soft and so beautiful. It's like window light. So probably the ice light too has been a big one for me as well. But it's around $500, so it's not cheap. Jimmy said, hi David, nice to have you back again. I've also got the Goerz HSS and works with the A6 300. Well, there you go. Well, that's good. Nara said, hi Susie. Yeah, poor Susie. She's a bit left out back there. Kieran's apologised to Susie and wants me to apologise to Susie. Bailey said he doesn't know what Susie's. You guys, honestly. Mel said, David, if I ever go to your country or you visit mine, the Philippines, we could be mistaken for brothers. Oh, that's interesting. I'm also bald with dark rimmed glasses, except I have brown skin. Yeah, I'm really fair. That's why I've had all these things burnt on my head today. I've had dry ice put on these sunspots. It's a sign of, it's living in Australia. Unfortunately, the UV is strong and I should have worn hats more. I've just learned to speak English with an Australian accent, Mel, and that's good day, mate. I should start mine with good day, mate, shouldn't I? I should actually be saying good day, mate, when we come in. So, and how you going? Things like that. Nara said, thanks, David. I'll only use 35 for 1.5 years, so I was being innovative. Like I said, I love the 35. It's my favourite focal length. So, are there any last questions, guys, before we go? It's just about lunchtime here. I'm going to go and have a beautiful lunch, I think, and a nice coffee. I need to have that. Harry Hill, he looks like you. You know what most people say I look like? And I get this every time I go out in Melbourne. People say I look like Heston, which is a famous chef. They always say that I look like Heston, and some of you will know who that is. But I get that all the time. If you Google him, Heston, the chef, you'll see what I mean. People always say that. Good travel lens, it depends. If you're talking about for the A6 500, you can't beat the 18 to 105, Kieran. If you're talking about, or Michael, if you're talking about travel for that size lenses, the A72s and the A9Rs are a bit harder because you haven't got that sort of focal range anymore on those lenses. I'd take the 35. I take the 35 2.8 though, because that's the nice and small lens. I take that with me when I'm traveling. And also, I'd always take my Batis because I like that lens for doing portraits and stuff. If you've got the A6 500, though, or the A6 300, the 18 to 105 is definitely the one to take. Hi-Fi Energy said, your first image you showed was stunning with my city, with the city as the backdrop. And I think that too, but like I said, everyone sees different things. Richard has said, hi David, what do you think about the 85 1.8? That's an amazing lens. And look, if I hadn't bought the Batis, I may have considered buying that one because it's very, very cheap. There's a couple of issues though, I suppose. The Batis is weather sealed, so that can be an issue with me if I'm in weddings and things like that and I have to work outdoors. The other thing is too that it's stabilised, so the Batis is stabilised. So I do use that sometimes on my A6 300, and then it's got stabilisation built in. So that's a couple of things. Image quality wise, I think they're both the same. I think from what I've researched and looked at, the Batis is slightly sharper, but the 85. It's not slightly sharper. I think the out of focus rendition is slightly better. The 85 1.8 I think is actually maybe a fraction sharper. Like I said, I wouldn't hesitate buying that lens now. If I wanted to buy another one, I probably would buy that lens. Naren said, I will consider the 12 to 24G, and yeah, that'd be a great lens. That's one I probably would buy if I was buying a new wide angle now. A zoom, I'd probably buy that one. Kieran said, I reckon you can get 10K by the end of the year. Well, I'm hoping so, Kieran. That's what I'm really pushing for. Let's hope I can get there. I've just gone over 5,200 or 300, so you never know, I might get there by the end of the year if things keep going. Thanks for supporting me though, guys. I mean, like I said, I really appreciate it. That's why I love giving things back to you guys. Hi-Fi Energy Research said Sony 85 1.8 is amazing, especially for the price, and yes, and it is, and I agree. One Atom Tan said, hi, I'm from Dixie. I'm still using the A7 with a Batis 85, and there's nothing wrong with that. I was considering a 35mm for my Lex lens. Your comments on the 6500 have me curious. I had an A6000 and love your videos. Thank you so much. Yeah, 35 is fantastic. If you're going to get the A6500 though, then get the 24 1.8 because that gives you the 35mm focal length, and that lens is stunning on that camera. So you may want to consider that. Or get a full frame 35, like you can get the 35 2.8. There's the Samyang one that's just come out now. I've got the Sony version of that, which I love for travel too. But there's nothing wrong with shooting the A7. I mean, it still gives you as beautiful pictures as the day you bought it. Kieran said, what tripod mount do you need to be able to do portrait shots with a tripod? Go back and check my previous videos, Kieran. You'll see I did a whole thing on tripods and stuff. If you go back a couple of videos, you'll see I've discussed that in detail. Okay, last couple of questions and then we'll finish. Like I said, please, guys, if you can, to support me, give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. So if you can, give me a thumbs up. If you do have any questions after viewing this later on, leave them down below, and I always personally answer and get back to you as quickly as I can. So put some questions down below. Obviously, if you haven't subscribed, give me a thumbs up and click on the little bell to give you a chime for when I'm on live. I will be back doing the live broadcast again next week around the same time as today, but I will have some videos up next week on the business stuff, and I've got a few more shoots that I want to post as well. Is that L brackets? I've got L brackets, Keith, but I don't use them. I've got a couple for my A6500 and the A6300, but I'm not using them. I probably should sell them. I've even got one, I think, for the A7R2, but I don't use them. They are great, though, because you can quickly go from portrait to landscape with an L bracket. But again, I just like to be using cameras minimalistic, and I like that small feel about them, and I'm used to that now. Like I said, I used to hate it, but now I actually love that. Second I put anything on, it becomes bigger. I do use cages when I'm shooting video for Fusion and stuff, but then I'll take them off the second that I'm finished again. Nara said, I tried the MNC 11 and didn't like it. Yeah, and that's why I'd love you to comment in your comments about that, guys, about whether you think that, that's good. Or get a Canon Sigma 1.8, 18 to 35 with that. Yeah, and I've heard that's a good combo, that Sigma 18 to 35 1.8 with that adapter. And you're happy with that mic. Well, that's really interesting too. All right, guys, I think it's lunchtime. So we'll end it now. And I'll see you again for the next video. Thanks so much for watching today. It's been great. And obviously, I'll see you again next week as well. I'm doing a course here tomorrow for an intro to photography course for a few people, which will be fun in the studio behind me. This is my office area that you're looking at now. Behind me in the back room there is my studio. This is built separately to my house. So this is actually a full studio that I've built. So I'm running a photography course in there on the weekend. So that's about all I'm going to sort of talk about today, guys. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all again next week. Bye for now. Have a great day, guys. Great evening, great morning, and everything else. See you. Thanks. Bye.